Hey Artemis,
Hi, Tony.
welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me back.
Of course, it's always a pleasure having you on. Um, this is your third time now, so
I'm so excited.
likewise. Um, I'm excited to jump into this talk. It's been a while since we've caught up, on the show and in person, so we have a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
But before we do that, there's obviously people that probably did not listen to previous shows. So why don't you tell everyone who Artemis is?
It's a big question. My name is Artemis Kohas. I, by education, am a psychotherapist, a licensed mental health counselor. By entrepreneurship, I owned the Mastica shop in New York City for 7 years and then online for another three. Um, and I then launched into a communications, marketing, PR, events company called the Kohas Agency. And I think throughout my life, I've been a philanthropist. So I've always felt very tied to philanthropy and also my Greek roots, if you could tell. I mean, owning a mastica shop, you have to really love your Greek roots. And so I'm
For
from Chios
sure.
also. And so I got tied in with the Hellenic initiative. I got tied in with Mastica. I got tied in with, promoting Greek wines and other Greek initiatives in the US. And that's basically what I've been doing, actually. Kohas Agency launched in 2016. And it's been a wild ride, and I'm super grateful for all the trust that people have put in me. And for being able to sort of live out my passions. So it's really exciting.
That's amazing. Talk to me a little bit more about like Kohas Agency. What is it? Tell us.
So it started with, I think it started actually because of my entrepreneurial pursuits in terms of promoting Mastica in the US, and people started coming to me and saying, I want you to promote, my products. And I used to do it in collaboration with Mastica. Like I love collaboration. So I would work with chefs and I would work with restaurants and I worked with winemakers and all kinds of, to me at that time, it was not like now where there's a million cool Greek brands, that are out there and they're really well done and they're beautiful. That was not the case, when I got started with Mastika Shop. And so I thought the best thing to do was that we should all work together and promote Greece as a lifestyle, because we have this amazing lifestyle. We have, look at the background where
Yeah,
you are, right? I mean, we have so much to offer, and it's not a competitive thing. We have to get together and tell everybody that we all collectively know about all the amazing things that Greece has to offer. And I think that that's, people sort of picked up that vibe and they wanted me to help them work on their projects. So I launched the agency, and I was initially doing wine events, and eventually, got into doing a whole bunch of other things. I represented Maria Ferranduri when she came to Carnegie Hall. I ran the EU FETA program. You were there. My most recently, I did a tourism and gastronomy workshop in New York City in November. And then, as a real sort of testament to my philanthropic, my love of philanthropy and my love of Greece, I work with the Hellenic Initiative, which I do community development for them. I run their new leaders program, which is for people under 45, and it's growing rapidly. I mean, it's growing
it
beyond
is.
anything we could have expected, and we're just so proud of it, and we're so happy. And we launched this plant a tree program, and actually, I want to sort of say something about that right now. We haven't
Sure.
launched it yet, in terms of a campaign, but we're planning on doing a big campaign with our new leaders across the globe. I mean, that's the one thing about the Hellenic Initiative, is it's sort of like a global Greek diaspora organization. And we want our new leaders across the globe to get people to plant trees. And it should all culminate on Earth Day, this April 22nd. So we're working on how the campaign is exactly going to work and so on. But get ready to plant trees for, in memory of people, in celebration of people, for your anniversary, for people's birthdays, whatever. And you get this really pretty certificate that you've planted a tree, in memory, or for whatever occasion you want to do it for. So in a nutshell, I do communications, marketing, messaging, events, people stuff. Psychotherapy is people stuff. It's all people stuff.
That's amazing. And yes, as for the Plant a Tree, I was at the Plant a Tree event last summer in Greece.
That's right. That's
Yes,
right. It was
that was a
awesome. And
fun
so
day
maybe you'll be there again this summer.
for sure. Definitely. So it sounds like your plate's really full. You love doing everything and you're great at these things, but I think you got something new coming up this September.
I
And I know
do.
you hinted at it before we got on the call. So talk to me about it. There's always
So,
room for more, even when the plate is full. There's
well, I
always room
mean,
for more.
if you're crazy like me, I guess, but I'm a multi-passionate person. That's what I like to call it. I think you'll hear in a lot of these entrepreneurial sort of advice pieces that it's really good to be laser focused on one thing. And I'm always thinking, gosh, I fail at that. I'm a complete failure at being laser focused on one thing. But there is this thing that actually Marie Forleo talks about it, about being multi-passionate. And then that's not a bad thing. Yes, there are sort of overarching umbrellas about the things that I'm passionate about. One of them is all things Greek. One of them is all things having to do with people and connecting people. And another one I would say is wellness, and connecting people and driving people towards their well-being. And to me, that's, why I studied psychotherapy. And then secondly, during COVID, I became a yoga teacher. And it's been a very long-standing, dream of mine to bring people to Greece, let them experience, what this amazing country has to offer, and get a little bit of that mojo. That's what I call it, the Greek mojo. And, then come back sort of transformed. I learned that, when I had Masika Shop, people would come and they would say, what is this? And I'd say, oh, well, it's a Greek product, and then all of a sudden they wanted to tell me everything they know about Greece. And when they went to Greece, they did this, and all these people were so great. And, and so it's like, you could just see that experience transformed them. And then they become an ambassador of Greece and an ambassador of those experiences. So I am finally going to do a yoga retreat in Greece. And I'm super excited about it. I'm doing it with Zina Wild in Chalkidiki. And people are going to be able to come to Chalkidiki, stay at a beautiful resort at Porto Caras, where Zina is a local. She knows all the awesome places to go eat, drink, beaches, wineries. We're going to go to Porto Caras winery. And of course, we're going to do yoga in the morning, yoga in the evening. There's going to be wellness, so I'm really excited about it. Actually, Zina and I are going to do a live. So if anybody's interested, I don't know when you're going to launch this actually, but this Wednesday, we're going to do a live on Instagram. So people can go back also and look at it and see kind of how we came down this path together, and how we've sort of landed here. So I'm super excited about it.
That's amazing. So this Wednesday you're doing the live, and that's exciting. So, and you said in Chalkidiki in September.
Yes, Chalkidiki. Last week of September, September 23rd to 30th.
Now, when will people be able to sign up for this?
People will be able to sign up as of Wednesday. All you need to do is give a $500 deposit. And Zina's dealing with all of the logistics of all of that, because she is the one that can answer all the questions about where are we staying? What are we eating? Whatever other questions that people might have about the logistics piece.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the one who's doing more of the programmatic type piece, the yoga piece. I'm actually starting to teach yoga tomorrow night at a studio, and I'm nervous. Somebody once told me, the feeling of being nervous is just like one pivot away from being excited. So I'm excited. I am nervous about it, but so I'll be teaching yoga for 2 nights a week from now until the summer, probably.
And this is your first ever, and this is your first ever that you're going to be teaching.
Yeah, for a studio officially. I did it when I was in training, but I haven't really done it for a studio officially. But I've been taking, I have to keep reminding myself. I've been a yoga student, for almost 20 years. I have the knowledge, I have the experience. So I'm just going to flex that muscle more.
That's amazing. So yes, your plate is full. It just became even more full.
Yeah.
Um, so that's exciting news. Um, Speaking of Greece, I want to ask you a question because in the past, the last couple times we've talked on the show, we've always carved out some time to talk about working from Greece. People love the whole back and forth thing these last few years. It's become pretty popular. People are trying to find a way, especially with remote working. It was actually the very first episode of this podcast when we were both in Greece during the pandemic in 2020. And we got together and we recorded a show talking about what it was like getting to Greece that year. And then the following time, we talked about what it's like to do the work from Greece, work from the US, back and forth. You're a few years into this now. I feel like I don't know if you've mastered it or you have a good grasp on it, but share with us what you've learned over the last few years about this. And is it something that people should consider?
So I think I was a digital nomad before people were thought of as digital nomads. And in 2019, I actually spent 6 months in Greece and 6 months in the US. And I pretty much can work from anywhere with my laptop as long as if I'm having an event, obviously I'm there and they're my babies. And so I have to make sure that I'm there and that everything is the way that I want it to be. And to take care of the people that, come and help and are part of it. So I think actually I have to say that this past summer I had a really hard time working from Greece. I had a really hard time focusing. Greece is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful country. And I guess I could generalize and say that probably you might have a hard time depending where your head is at anywhere, you are.
Yeah.
But for me, being here, I have a lot of friends, I have a lot of family. There are huge number of expats that are moving to Greece, a huge number of people that I know from the Hellenic initiative community who were in cities in the US, new leaders, cities in London, in London, and we're reaching out to them now and they're saying, oh, I live in Athens now. How can I be engaged now? So there's lots of
Yeah.
diaspora work, but that can still be done here. So in terms of that, there is an international community and it's not just Greek people. There are international people that live here from all over the world. And I say here, I'm in Athens right now. So I think that, that makes it kind of easy. There's interesting food and there's sunlight here like 300 days of the year.
Yeah.
So that, sorry, 1 second.
That's good. Take a sip too.
So that makes it really easy too. I think the sunlight keeps me energized, motivated. I became a winter swimmer. So there's a lot to do. There's a lot. However, you have to be flexible and willing to work off hours. Be on calls at nighttime. Granted, it gives you your mornings free. But like I said, I had a hard time this summer because especially in August, everybody's on vacation.
Yeah.
And people don't understand that you're actually
Yeah.
working.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, what do you mean you're working? What do you mean you're not coming to the beach? What do you mean you're not coming to dinner? Because it's during your US work hours, So that gets hard sometimes. I mean, I think that's probably something you'd experience anywhere you are if you're not
Yeah,
if you're not
definitely.
sort of like prepared for it.
Earlier you called yourself, was it multi-passionate?
Yeah.
Was that the word?
Yes, it was.
What inspires this? Like being multi-passionate, wanting to do all these things, filling that plate. Actually, I'm not even calling it a plate, filling the platter. Like, let's call it a platter at this point. What inspires you every day to keep doing this?
Um, you know what? I'm not gonna lie. Like there are days that I feel like my batteries are done.
Yeah.
Like, how am I even gonna push the ball forward on all these open items that I have and literally hundreds of open tabs on my computer. So there are days that I have that are like that as well. And I wonder if my dad's legacy is something that makes me work really hard. I have this like intrinsic drive that I have to give back to the world, and that I have to leave this world a better place, leave something, touch people in some way. And it's something I can't really explain where it came from, other than like my parents were big on like giving back and being grateful and like being philanthropic. And work is work, right? And I still get paid obviously for things that I do, but I choose to do the things that I feel like are giving back to the world. And I think that that keeps me going. The sunshine keeps me going. Exercise keeps me going as I age, but there are definitely days where I feel burnt. I mean, if I,
Mm,
I won't, and I think everybody should know that. And on those days, I make sure there are people, like I have people on my team that help me. I have people that really help me move the ball forward, with things that I can't possibly do it all on my own. Right. So, um, and, and that's a whole nother thing, is being a leader of a team, and working with people and figuring that whole thing out. But it's rewarding.
that's beautiful. Um, I want to ask, I know you've asked me this question in the past about how to handle failure. But before I get to failure, I want your quick definition of success, and then I want to know how you handle failure.
I think success is like what I just said, and like what Tony Robbins says. We talked about that a little bit before we came on. You've reached success when you're able to give back, and when you're able to share the fruits of your efforts, with the world. And I would add one more thing. And like, to me, I feel like my success is that I'm able to work on the things that I want to work on. And I don't feel like work is work every day.
Yeah.
It's feel good stuff.
Yeah.
So I think that's success.
And how do you handle failure?
Failure. I don't think I handle it very well.
There's your answer.
Um, for most of my life, I really could not accept failure for myself. And it's something that I work on all the time. And it's like, how do you define failure also? Like, it could
Mm,
be a little failure, like, I don't know. I'm time challenged, right? So that could be a failure in some
mm,
people's, mind, that like, I'm 15 minutes late to something.
yeah.
And it's all those little micro steps that I keep working on. And then I'm like really hard on myself about, I messed up my diet. I didn't, whatever it is, I didn't finish this thing on the deadline and I need to do it. And
Right.
or there are bigger failures, obviously, projects that you try to push forward that never happen. And then I just try to like talk myself out of it. And I say, well, everything's happens when it's meant.
Hmm.
I've done a lot of spiritual work on myself, where I think about like, you put all of your wants, in Abraham Hicks would say, in the vortex, and then and then they're there, and then you have to sort of match up and align with what it is that you want. So you need to behave that way. If you want to have more leadership in the world, then you need to act like a bigger leader. And if it doesn't work out right now, when it's the time comes, it will come to you. Like, it will get
Right.
attracted to you. It's kind of like this yoga retreat thing. I've been wanting to do it for a long time, and I've discussed it with a lot of people. And those people went out and did it before me, some of them.
Mm,
And I was thinking, oh, damn, like, I really wanted to do that. And like, I'm not, why are they, why was I not? And then, Zena came to me and she was like, look, I have a house in Kaigidiki and I want to do this, retreat, and I want to give back to the world. And it just like all came together at the moment it was supposed to. So, failure is a temporary thing in the big picture of life. It's just leading you somewhere else, or it's going to happen at a different time in a different way. Um,
that's yeah, that's a
that's
good way
how
to
I
look at
deal
it.
with it.
Amazing. All right. What I want to do now is take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to dive into a little more Greek roots, where you're from in Greece, and maybe pick your brain about what we could learn if we were to visit your home place in Greece. So
Yay.
take a quick break for commercials, and we'll be right back on Greece Chats podcast with Tony Kariotis. And we're joined today by Artemis Kohas. We'll be right back.
Thanks.
Are you ready to visit Greece? So much to see. So much to do. So much to plan. So much wow. So much to take in. So much to learn. So much to enjoy. So much to discover. So little time. Where do you start? Introducing Greece Trips. Never miss a moment. Start planning with us today.
All right. All right, we're back. We're back to Greece Chats podcast. Tony Kariotis. Today's guest is Artemis Kohas. Before the break, we're talking about everything Artemis is working on right now. But what I want to transition to now is I want to ask Artemis about her Greek roots. So, Artemis, where in Greece do you call home?
Chios. Specifically, my parents were both born in the south of Chios, in two villages, and I've spent every summer of my life in Komi, in Chios. And I have to say, there's a bunch of us Greek Americans from Komi who have like a real special tie with the place and with each other. And it's really moving. And as we're growing older, and the time we spend there is like more and more sacred, and we all feel very much like family with each other, having sort of grown up every summer together. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine. There's, like you said, there's a lot of people from Chios in Greek America. And I actually had somebody on that was from Chios. And and I'm like, oh, so I did the whole, how do you know if somebody's from Chios? And he answered it perfectly. He goes, don't worry, we're going to tell you.
That's right. Don't worry. We're very proud about where we're from.
He goes,
And, we definitely travel.
How do you know if someone's from Chios? Don't worry, they'll tell you.
Exactly.
So I want to talk about Chios from the traveler's perspective. I want to ask you, what is one thing you would tell someone if they were planning their first trip to Chios?
I don't know if there's just one thing. I'm from Chios, right? So I can't just say
we'll
one
get
thing
into
about
more, but like the first thing you're gonna let them know about, like what's that first thing you're gonna say? You need to know this. You need to know this.
Is that it's not like the pictures they see in the magazines of the Kyklades. It's not like Mykonos, and it's not like Santorini, and it's a completely different experience. It's a very authentic place. It's pretty untouched by tourism and tourists, and it's there's the range of geography, geographical types of plateaus and landscapes that you see, and the range of beaches and the range of things you can do in Chios is quite large. So it takes a while to see the island. The northern part is much more mountainous, the southern part much less so. On the southern part, there's Mastika, of course. So there are the Mastika villages, and there's a museum. There's history, like the massacre of Chios. You can see Turkey right across, like, breaths away.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of history there, and there's a lot of culture, and it depends how much you want to dive into those things. Or if you just want to dive in the ocean, there's actually 92 beaches in Chios, and I've not been to all of them. And Chios is like it's known for shipping, right? On the northern side, they didn't have as much agriculture as the south. So but they're known for Chios has some of the most important names in shipping, and some of the wealthiest people of Greek descent come from Chios. And off the coast of Chios, there's 2 islands. Last year I went to Psara, which is I loved it. It was like quiet, off the beaten path, quaint, gorgeous beaches. I don't know, maybe it's like, I've done the Mykonos thing, and there's a lot to be said about that, and lots of pros and cons there. But like as I'm growing older, I really want to go to like these more secluded, off the beaten path places and sort of appreciate the locals and all the other amazing things that there are to offer. Chios is also known for citrus fruits, and there are several actual manufacturers of various products. Actually, we have Chios beer, we have like all kinds of things. So there's lots there. And actually, sorry, I'm going on and on now. This is what
Keep
happens.
Keep going.
Because we talked about a yoga retreat before. I'm actually talking with someone about doing a yoga retreat in Chios, and there are these beautiful old buildings in Chios and Campos, where all the citrus is, and Chios was occupied by the Italians, as well as many other people, and the Italians brought this beautiful architecture to Chios, and the wealthy people lived in Campos, right outside of the city. And it would just be so great to do a retreat there, or to do any kind of sort of wellness there. And I think, one of my other passions, my mom, had Alzheimer's. So I always thought, like, wouldn't it be so beautiful if one of those old Arjondica with the big the big orchards outside with the trees and the pools and was like for elderly? I mean, where else would you want to be at the end of your life? I mean, in this, other than in this beautiful place that's like steeped in culture and like, I don't know. I just thought that was such a great idea. Of course, I don't have money to do that. Somebody else has got to do it.
So obviously there's a ton to do. But in your opinion, what makes Chios so unique?
I think what makes it unique is that diversity of it. I think it's the diversity of it. And I think it's like the fact that it's not touristy. The fact that there's actually a ton of Greek Americans from Chios. If you come in the summer, actually you came. Did you notice there's like tons of Greek Americans?
Yes.
It's better to go a little off the times that they're all there, because you feel like you're in, Brooklyn or Queens. But it's not touristy by any means. It's all the people whose roots are there, and they're there to see their, families and all of that. I really enjoy, obviously, Icaria is very well known for their panigyrια. I really enjoy the Chiotiko panigyrια also. It's a completely different vibe. It's much more organized. Like you book a table and you have, but I really love those authentic things that you can go to a village, that you can still see, the grandmas out on the stoop, that you can go and have traditional dance party until, the sun comes up, and then go straight to the furno, that opened, and the guys like just taking the tiropites out of the oven. I mean, I'm not saying that you can't do that on other Greek islands. I just think that a lot of the very commercialized Greek islands have moved very far away from that. They've moved to more upscale, kind of things. Whereas in Chios, the other thing is, actually, I wish we had nicer hotels, but we don't have these big, massive resorts that you just stay there. Like you find an Airbnb, you stay, you meet the person who owns it, I mean, there's a couple of hotels also that are nice, but there's a real local vibe. And I think that keeps it unique.
Okay. What are your top 3 villages on the island?
Oh, well, I mean, I'm going to say my village, but
let's hear. I need 3.
Okay,
I need 3 for the show. Mm-hmm.
which somebody had once sent a business plan who was not Greek a long time ago, saying Kalamuti, the forgotten village, because a lot of people have moved out of Kalamuti, obviously, and but it is a medieval village. So to be fair, Mesta is a much better, well-kept medieval village. So you must go to Mesta. You must go to Pirgi. Pirgi is the one with all the graphic, you must go to the museum. Those are all on the south side. I would say on the north side, people go to Voliso, which is on the upper west side. That's like where you can take the boat to go across to Psara. It's much more green, and the waters are completely different, and the beaches are completely different. And there's a really cute village there also that you can go and eat. And it's another place that a lot of people go. And then you have to see Avgonima and Navato. Navato is a village that's actually not populated. It was the last stronghold of Chios, where everybody was inside that village. Like, you can't see it. From far away, you see a mountaintop and you don't see the actual village. And that was the point. It was camouflaged from the Turks. And one day, the story is, one day a woman went out to get water and a Turk caught her and followed her back, saw her, followed her back to the village. And that's how they went and invaded the village. And there's a cliff. It's almost like, the Zalogu story where they were actually, there was a church and a cliff, and where supposedly they were falling off the cliff rather than let the Turks kill them. So that's a really interesting place to go. And there's sometimes like a yaya out there with traditional meli, honey and herbs and things like that. And Avgonima is like the neighboring village. And then, and there's great sunsets from there and great food. Oh my God, there's so many things. I could talk for hours about you. And there was another one I wanted to tell you, but now I forgot.
What are we at, like 7 now?
Oh, Namoni. You have to go to Namoni. It's not a village. It's a monastery. That's where, again, one of the other last strongholds before the massacre. So people were hiding in the monastery, women and children. And then the Turks came there and obviously massacred them. But it's a beautiful place. Yeah.
Very nice. How about 3 towns on the island?
I think I told you a lot.
No, I need your top 3.
Towns?
Aside from, not villages, like main,
towns
like
villages.
Where, I'm sorry, I should have said like old villages that are just for sightseeing. Was the first question.
Avgonima is definitely one.
And then like main cities / towns as for something that's more lively, that I'll go find cafeterias, bars, restaurants.
So I think
that's the category I want now.
So I'll categorize my list. So for more lively, Galmi, where I live in the summer, is very lively. There's a lot of cafes, beach bars. It's on the beach. Restaurants. Mesta is very lively in the village. Lots of things going on. Again, cafes, cocktail bar. And, other than Kora, which Carfas is very lively, but not my favorite place actually, because that's the most touristy part of the island. Volisos is lively in the summer as well. And Kardamila, which is where the ship owners are from, also has just a couple cafes and bars, but like, they have the people who are from Kardamila tend to stay in Kardamila. So it's always very lively. So there's always a lot of people there. And then the must-see, like touristy things, Neamoni, Anavatos, Pirhi, you'll go and just see the architecture and the stuff, that's on the walls. So that's my categorization of them.
Perfect. That helps. If I needed to ask you, I only have time for 3 beaches. What are the 3 beaches you're going to recommend?
Well, you have to see Mavravolja because it's the Black Rocks. It's been voted, by all the travel magazines as like one of the top beaches. And I don't know where in Europe, in the world, but it's amazing. I love Gomi because I'm from there, but I'll tell you in August, it's like crazy. There's a ton of people there. Um, what other beaches do I like in Chios? I don't know. Komi and Mavravo. And I mean, to be honest, like there's a couple beaches like up there near Volisol, Limnia is a nice
Hmm.
beach that we go to. A lot. It's a little more quiet. I mean, I think the best beaches. Oh, there's I just thought of a couple more. Avlonia near Mesta and also Apofica near Mesta are like gorgeous, gorgeous beaches. The thing that makes me a little bit sad is that I used to go to those Salagona, there was like a whole side of beaches that we used to go to when I was younger, and there was literally nothing there. It was like us with our picnic basket and like a dirt road. And now, of course, there's like, a canteen truck on every beach and the road's been paved and, it's progress. But
Yeah.
there's something about, it's not as now you go and it's easier for people to get there. There's all these families, it's all like, it's just a lot more chaotic than it used to be.
What is the island known for when it comes to food? Is there a signature dish? Is there a signature meal? Tell me.
Well, fish. So there's a lot of fish. We're an island, so there's lots of fish. But also on the north side, there's a lot because it's very mountainous. There's a lot of meat also. There's, goats and other like very local meat. We love to go to these places that they have what they call Chericia macaronia, that they make the pasta by hand.
Mm.
And, there are certain, masticha is obviously from Chios, but you'd be surprised there's not a ton of history of Chiotes cooking with masticha, because if you think about like Chios's history, the people weren't actually allowed to keep the masticha for themselves. Like the Ottoman Empire would take the masticha from them. They were not allowed to keep it. Like if they kept and stole any masticha, they would cut their hand off. Like it's not even, so it's not in their history to cook with masticha so much. That said, obviously there's masticha ice cream, everywhere on the island. And there's, a few other things. But not necessarily, as a signature dish. The citrus fruits are kind of a signature thing. Again, they're not like a signature dish, but like something that in the winter, if you're in Chios, they'll give it to you at the end of your meal, because it's fresh and all of that. So
what about when it comes to beverage?
Oh, you have to have, masticha liquor and masticha water.
That was an easy one. That was the easy
Yeah.
one. I had to get it in there for those listening that may not know. You talked a little bit about the local culture. What is the local culture like for someone that unexpectedly come into Chios? What should they expect when it comes to the people, the lifestyle? How does it differ? What is it like?
I think, maybe potentially, it might feel a little bit different in that, like, I mean, there's English everywhere, but it's not really like you won't hear English as often as you hear it unless you come in August and all the Greek Americans are there. You won't hear it as often as you do on any other island where you just get off the boat and everybody's there trying to like, there's not, the tourism industry just isn't there. So if you're looking for that, or that might make you feel uncomfortable, like, do people speak English? Which they do, but people aren't necessarily, they don't have that mentality where like they're open and they'll come and talk to you and whatever. Like if you talk to them, they'll talk to you, but everyone's sort of in their own world doing their own thing because they're not in the tourism industry. When you're in the tourism and the hospitality industry, your job is to talk to everyone. Your job is to be extroverted. And Chiotes have never had to do that. So, maybe that's one thing to just note. But on the other hand, if you get us talking, is probably you've noticed, like we can't shut up about the island. We'll tell you everything there is to do, everywhere there is to go. We'll take you out with us. Like I've had people stay at my house, like they're taking them, to all of my favorite places, introduce them to my friends, before you know it, they're like locals, they're going to the beach by themselves. They know everybody. I mean, it's like, it's like that. And we know that because we see people who come back year after year afterwards who are not
Yeah.
grieving. Yeah.
Well, I
And
see that
actually there's a bunch of
good.
people who like bought homes like in some of the villages and like from Italy, from like all kinds of other places, and they're not Greek. So
Hmm. Yeah, no, I noticed that obviously you enjoy telling us all about Chios, so I'm not going to stop asking questions.
sorry.
No, I'm not going to stop. So someone who's coming to Greece, they might be in Athens, they might be in the islands. What's the easiest way to get there?
All
Because
right.
obviously
So
it's pretty far from Athens.
yeah,
So
because
if
it's
someone
right off
likes
the coast of
ferries, it's pretty
Turkey.
far. So tell us what's the
Yeah.
easiest way to get there?
The easiest way is to take the plane. I mean, it's not cheap though. And the boat, I've taken the boat many times because if you bring your car,
Hmm.
you take the boat and it's overnight going to Chios. So like you get on at like 7 or 8 in the evening and you get there at like 4 in the morning. So you could sleep if you have a cabin,
Yeah,
a little bit. Um but generally like the plane is much easier. That said, people take the boat all the time too. So but um that's part of the appeal of it being off the beaten path.
and last question about Chios. What would you say is the perfect day trip for a tourist that is got 1 day left? They might have saw a few things. What would you recommend do? Is it taking that sailing boat around the island? What is that perfect day trip? Or is it going to Masticha Valleys? Tell me.
First of all, if you go to Chios, you must go to the Mystica Museum. Like, you just must.
Hmm.
I was completely impressed with how well done it is. You have to go there.
Yep.
And then the second thing, and when you go there, you can drive through the Mastika villages and see those other villages pretty easily, Mestapirhi and like Mavravolya, the beach, pretty easily. The other day trip would be from like the main town up through to Anavato, Gonima, which are right near each other, and you could go down the west side then that has gorgeous untouched beaches. Um, to me, like those are the two things you absolutely must do
Sure.
if you go to Chios.
Amazing. So there's your recap of Chios for those listening that tuned in strictly for the travel aspect. We learned all about Chios today. Make sure it's on your list. I went a couple years ago. Everything Artemis says is in fact true. And the
I didn't see
museum,
you enough. That was the one
I
issue.
know, I
People can
know.
reach out to me if they have questions about Chios. I'm happy to oblige.
But the museum was fantastic, just as Artemis is telling us. So my next question is probably going to be the most difficult question of the podcast episode today for you. I don't know how you're going to handle this one, but I want to know, what are your three favorite islands aside from Chios?
Oh gosh, how am I going to handle that?
Yeah, this is a difficult one for someone from Chios.
Well, I actually really love Psara, so that's like top of mind, top of
Okay.
I don't know. It's hard. I'm not going to pick the commercial islands that everybody
Yeah,
picks.
no, we want
I
the ones
went
that no
to,
one knows about.
well, yeah, but not now. They're going to find out about them.
That's my selling point for the show.
I
Tune
went
into.
to an island actually off the coast of Santorini, where many people go and they can have the real sort of like,
Hmm.
opposite experience,
Yeah.
is called Sikinos. And a friend of
Yes.
mine convinced me to go there. And it was just, I mean, it was desolate, but like in the best way. And
Yeah.
it actually has a winery with like its own built-in restaurant. I mean, it was great. I loved Sikinos. I loved Sara. And let me think of another one. You know, I love Kimolos.
Mm,
I do love Kimolos, although it's getting to be a little too well known now.
right.
And that boat trip to Poliego is just like it's otherworldly. I can't even believe I'm in Greece when I go there. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like, and I love Greece, and it's just like it's just beyond.
Right.
Um, so those are
All
my
right.
three little
Those are
islands.
three great choices. What about three mainland cities or villages?
So, well, I was just in Bilio, and I actually quite enjoyed that a lot. It has this like there were fireplaces lit everywhere. It has this like really nice winter sort of flair. And lots of little villages, lots of great food, you know, everywhere. Apparently they're skiing, you know, I haven't skied, so like whatever, but so that was really nice. I think on the south, like Nafplion is really nice. It's a historic city on the water, really beautiful. Monemvasia further down is gorgeous also. And then actually, I think Khalkidiki, there's lots to explore there. Thessaloniki is a beautiful city. It always takes the back seat to Athens, but it's a beautiful small city. Khalkidiki is actually an hour and a half drive from there, but it has all those, for those of you who don't know, it has like 3 different legs. It's all water all around.
Yeah.
So there's so
and
much
it's some of the
to,
warmest waters because it's inside the 3 peninsulas. It keeps the water extra warm. And it's really a pleasure.
Yeah.
All right. And what about 3 favorite Greek dishes?
Oh gosh. Well, I love moussaka, but without the potatoes.
Okay.
And I know that they make it mostly with potatoes everywhere, but I prefer it without potatoes. So, and I just love, and it has to have like a lot of bechamel, so that's like a lot of whatever with moussaka. And I love like bites, you know, I know that sounds like very whatever, but like spanakopita, my sister makes a mad spanakopita once a week, and I'm always like getting some from her. You know, in Greece, like people have that all the time, so it doesn't seem like anything special, but it kind of is, like if you're not, you know, used to having that. And then they have like bites with meat in that, you know, there's savory and sweet. I mean, I'm a savory girl. So what did I say? Moussaka, that. What else do I like? I mean, I like fish, you know. I love like the Greek table with all the like super healthy but like delicious, satisfying things, you know, like fish and horta and okay, it could be fried kolokithakia with tzatziki and like you know, the French fries like that are fresh cut potatoes fried in, you know, in fresh olive oil, like that, you know, gavro marinato, like that whole table of like really, you know, Greek stuff. And now like that table is Lenten, right? So if you're in Greece during Lent, there's lots of beans and vegetables and, you know, roasted anginaris and things that like you wouldn't normally have, but they make it really easy for you to eat healthy.
Amazing. And then lastly, with these 3 picks, if you are a coffee drinker, is it Freddo, Frappe, or Hellenico?
I used to have frappe like all the time. Like I was a die-hard frappe. And like to the point that like, I don't know if you noticed this, like people in Greece, like don't like they look down on frappe.
Yeah, if you ask for it, it's just like they look at you like, what are you doing in my country?
Like, where are you from?
Yeah.
And it's so quintessentially Greek, and like somehow they've like become Fredo people. I don't know. I find it like really, whatever. Now I have a Freddo cappuccino with like oat milk, which is not exactly the right for a cappuccino, but like that's what I have because I don't have any sugar in my coffee, so that's why I have that. So with some milk, and that's it. The frappe with no sugar, I don't think I could handle. So
there was a phase where I did do straight up black frappe. No sugar, no nothing in it. This was years ago. I was just, because it was while I was in like my best diet of my life. I'm like, I want the frappe. I don't want to eliminate it, but I want to have it, which is nothing. And at first it was really hard, but after like a week of one of those, one a day, I got used to it. So I went like a couple months.
No milk, nothing?
Nothing. Just the frothed up powder, and that's it. It was hardcore. It was so tasteless. It was so bad, but I just needed that caffeine, and I wasn't ready yet to quit on frappe. And go with the Fredo train. Like I wasn't on that train yet. But there you go. Now I've switched. I was one of the last to switch from frappe. I do make my Fredos at home, but And that's what I got right here. Oh, there.
Oh,
All right, I got one last question for you. Unless there's anything else that I'm forgetting that you might want to say, but before we sign off, I'm going to ask one last question. It's the question I ask everyone before we sign off, and it's a simple question. What does being Greek mean to you?
oh gosh. I say oh gosh because this is like it's like Chios. I could talk about it for like 3 hours. Um, I think you know, obviously being Greek is my culture. I was raised like by two immigrant parents who felt very strongly that it was important for my sister and I to grow up and be in those roots, like very deeply rooted in our Greek culture, and
Yeah.
that we should not forget where we came from. And that's something that I remember, very distinctly. We learned how to read and write Greek. We learned how to dance Greek. And it was meant to be a source of pride. And I have to say, like, I'm not sure that, in my teen years or I felt like pride about it. It was just like part of who I was. I didn't really love my name when I was young. I grew up in, Pennsylvania, where it wasn't like, it is now in New York and all over, that like people have all kinds of interesting names. Like my name seemed very strange. So I'm not sure I always felt like it was a source of pride like I do now, and as I've grown and learned so many more things about our history and about our culture, I do feel quite proud about it. But mostly because I think, having Greek roots as your inheritance means that, our culture has shared so much with the world, and we need to do a better job of, keeping ourselves in that place where, we're scholars, where we have philosophy, where we have art, where we have so many things to share, like the fruits of the earth that, that we have here, and the experiences, that we can have in the various places that we talked about, and foods that we can try, and how can we share those with the world in a way that is really transformative for people and makes people, want to come back, feel like they've had an experience that was rewarding, interesting, exciting, and somehow touch their lives. So I think of it as a responsibility also, in terms of I've made it, I've made it my work, I've made it my life. And I think as a US person who can be here often, I'm always thinking about like, how can I help Greece elevate itself? And THI does a lot of that work in terms of entrepreneurship, in terms of giving back for crisis relief. We just had our 10-year anniversary where we actually hit the milestone of giving back $20 million to NGOs doing really important vetted work on the ground here. So, it sort of never ends. One thing brings another. But I think being Greek means, you're a survivor, and it means that you're out there and you're, constantly trying to elevate whatever narrative it is that you're working on.
Well said. Beautifully said.
Thank you.
Um, why don't you let everyone know where they can find you, where they can learn more about Kohas Agency, the work you do with THI, and if you want to talk about the retreat again, about how to find that.
Yeah. So you can find me on LinkedIn. My website is www.thekohasagency.com. If you want to email me about anything Hellenic Initiative related, my email is artemis.kohas@thehellenicinitiative.org. And for the retreat, I don't know if it's up yet, but it will be on Zena's site, called Theuzina, THEUZINA.com. My site's coming up soon. It's not ready yet. The retreat is going to be called, and any retreats I do in the future are going to be called Epathy retreats. And so of course they had to have a Greek name. And Epathy means to connect, to contact. So to me, that's what I want people to do. I want them to come connect with themselves, connect with others, connect with the nature of Greece, connect with the culture, with whatever it is that they want to get out of it, to dig a little deeper and get some rewards for taking a journey with us.
It's amazing. Thank you, Artemis, for coming on the show again.
Thanks.
Always.
Oh, and we have the Instagram
Yes.
Live.
Yes.
So you can
and the
see me on
Instagram Live.
Instagram. On Instagram, I'm Mastika Girl.
Mastika Girl. Exactly. Thank you for coming on. It's always fun. Always a pleasure having you on the show. Always fun talking. And I'm sure we'll do it again. And hopefully see you soon.
Thank you for having me. I missed you, Tony.
I miss you too. Thank you, everyone, for listening to Greece Chats Podcast with Tony Kariotis. This was Artemis Kohas, and we will talk to you again on the next episode.
Bye, everyone.